I'm Austin Dressman. I'm the Community and Events Manager at Engaging Networks, and welcome to our Best of 25 Digital Day webinar. Today, we will be revisiting some of the standout sessions from last year's ENCC events in London, Toronto, and DC, chosen by attendees like you. And whether you caught these live or have not yet attended an ENCC, you're in for some really inspiring talks that we hope will leave you with some great new ideas for future campaigns. And these are things that were talks that were mentioned in a lot of our surveys, post event surveys from attendees. So we know they had great takeaways from them, and we hope that you do too. Before we jump into things, I want to just kind of call out our ENCC 2026 schedule, which is now live. I'll drop that in the chat here in a minute, but we have some great sessions already lined up this year. You won't want to miss it. And with the well-known pressure on budgets across the sector, we've reduced ticket costs to make ENCC even more accessible. It's still the same fun, insightful event you are used to, but at a more accessible price. And early bird pricing is currently open for London and Toronto. DC is not yet open yet. The tickets are not yet open yet, but we'll have that in the coming weeks here, and you'll get an email from us if you're subscribed to our list there, and we'll let you know about that. But in the meantime, let me switch us over here for just a minute. Those are the dates for ENCC. And oh yeah, thanks. I'm just seeing the chat there. If at any point you notice any technical difficulties, please do not hesitate to let me know. But yeah, I'm gonna drop in really quick here. Stop my share so that I can actually get to my links for ENCC, and then we will get into the agenda for the day. All right, dropping that in the chat right now. So those are the links to get to Toronto and the London pages. So let me know if you have any questions, though. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any questions about anything. And we'd also love to see you submit a session for to speak if you're interested, and I can also share that with you as well. Okay, so as I mentioned today, we'll replay three top-rated ENCC talks, and the agenda today is that first we'll hear from Natalie Hooper, who's with Born Free in the UK, and we have Man Sakdalan from National Trust for Historic Places, who will be next, and then we'll be able to bring it all home with Ryan Balarjan from Grass Riots and Kevin Kardash from the University of Ottawa. And the best part of all this is that our speakers are going to be joining us live here on Zoom to answer your questions following the recording of their session from ENCC. So feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section. Specifically, I'd ask of Zoom, just so we can see them in the order in which they come and be able to track them a little better. In case we aren't able to answer all the questions today, we'll be able to see them and pull a report and be able to get back to you offline if need be. So yeah, but that's enough for me. We've kind of gone through all the logistics here. But first up, we have the session, which is called Clawing at the Cages, How Born Free Combined Advocacy and Fundraising for Maximum Impact with Natalie Hooper from Born Free. So let me go ahead and get that queued up. And this will be our first session of the day of me doing this. So let's make sure let's see if this works. I've done enough as it is here, but let me see. All right, and make sure I share my screen. Okay. Everybody see a white screen right now? Okay, great. Let's go ahead and press play, and then I'll mute myself, and hopefully you're still here.
Destiny, I'm the digital marketing lead at Born Free, so I look after everything related to our website, our email marketing, our social media, and our Engaging Networks pages. So the case study I'm presenting today is about how we combined advocacy and fundraising for maximum impact. And because I work in the comms team, I sit across both of these, so it's been quite beneficial to us. And one thing I just wanted to mention was that there's been some amazing case studies from charities who work with agencies on their Engaging Networks pages. We unfortunately don't have the budget for that. So everything that we do is what you can get just out the box from Engaging Networks with a little or a lot of help from Corinne. Thank you, Corinne. So yeah, what I'm going to cover today is how we united donors, activists, and also new supporters by combining fundraising and advocacy. how we leverage segmentation of our email database for precise messaging, and then how we boosted momentum of the campaign through daisy chaining. So if you don't know Born Free, we're an international wildlife charity rescuing and protecting wild animals from exploitation and conserving threatened species and their natural habitats for generations to come. We were founded in 1984 by Dame Virginia McKenna, Bill Travers, MBE, and Will Travers, OBE. And from the very beginning, we've opposed the exploitation of wild animals in captivity and fought to keep them in the wild where they belong. This particular campaign, the aim of the campaign is to end the exploitation of big cats in zoos. So we oppose all animals being kept in captivity, but big cats are particularly unsuited. So when I say big cats, I mean lions, tigers, leopards, snow leopards, jaguars, and pumas. The issues range from enclosure sizes, which are thousands of times smaller than their natural range, to health issues, often caused by inbreeding, and even the culling of cubs because they're deemed excess to requirements. So the specific objectives of the campaign was to pressurize the government to update zoo legislation, in particular calling for an end to the breeding of big cats in zoos, an end to the import of big cats to the UK, whether that be from the wild or from other zoos, and to improve the welfare conditions for the cats who are already here. And then we wanted to fundraise to support this campaign. So our targets were a minimum of 5,000 petition signatures and £20,000 raised in online revenue, which was part of our total fundraising target of £70,000. Our approach to the campaign was multifaceted. So we were promoting this in the media. We sent out a direct mail to our supporters. It was, of course, on our website, in our email marketing. We ran organic and a small amount of paid social, and we also had a live activation in Leicester Square. So hopefully the team at the back can play a little video for you now, just to see that live activation.
We're launching our Clawing at the Cages report. It brings together and summarises information about the litany of issues facing big cats in zoos across Europe. And these include tiny enclosure sizes, abnormal stereotypical behaviours, but also conservation, health and genetic issues as well.
It doesn't feel great standing in a cage, and obviously, you know, I'm a free woman, I can walk around, I can do exactly what I want. The Raw Free campaign is incredibly important. I still can't believe in this day and age, with the empathy that we have, the causes that we have, that we're still seeing caged big cats. It's nuts.
I hate zoos. I think they're completely wrong. Any animal in captivity, I disagree with.
Zoos talk about conservation. I don't believe it's about conservation because I don't see any of those big cats born into captivity released into the wild. For me, it's all about breeding animals or bringing animals to zoos for human entertainment. And I don't think that's right. It's got to stop.
So we're calling on the UK public to join us in calling for a Raw Free UK. And by doing so, we're calling on the UK government to phase out the keeping of big cats in zoos and ending the breeding and importation of big cats.
So this is a little snapshot inside my mind. It's chaotic. But when we launched this campaign, I knew that it was going to be more complex than just one petition page and one donation page. We were going to have people coming from multiple touch points, whether that be our emails, our social, our direct mail, from seeing the activation. And I wanted to make sure that everyone had a seamless journey regardless of where they came from. So everything that's in white on this basically is a different touch point, and the rest is the journey I mapped to work out what pages we need. It looks complex, but actually the theory is very, very simple. So if someone signs our petition, we'll say thank you and ask them to donate. If they then donate, we'll say thank you and ask them to share. If they donate first, we'll then say thank you and ask them to sign the petition. They sign the petition, we say thank you, and we ask them to share. So our petition pages, we set up two versions of the petition. So the first is a very straightforward one, which I'll demo in a second, but it just asks for your personal details, it asks for your opt-ins, and then you sign. The second one, because it was going to be daisy chained from our donation page, strips out all of those first questions about personal data and just goes straight to signing. So this is where tech might let me down, but let's see if we can flip. So here is our petition. So we sign our petition. it expands with more information. And then I'm just going to pop in my details. I'm going to opt into everything because that's what, of course, all of our supporters do. Yes, and then sign the petition. And then you see here we say, thank you, can you support our Big Cats campaign by giving a gift today? And then that will take you on to donate. Hopping back in here, our donation pages, as you might expect, is basically the reverse. So we've got our standard donation page where people will fill in all of their details, choose their donation amount, opt in, and then we've got the daisy-chained one for people coming from the petition, so they've already done their details and they're opt-in. The only difference is we actually had 4 versions of this page, which is largely due to our own complex website setup, but it just meant that if you were coming from email, you'd get something slightly different than if you were coming from the website. If you're a monthly donor, it's slightly different versions. But again, I'll just show you what that looks like in practice. So you choose your donation amount, pop in your details. Next. I'm going to pay with my fake card. We've got our gift aid and transaction fees to cover as well. This is the bit where the page always takes forever, so apologies for the awkward wait. So then we have thank you. And then just coming through to the petition, as I mentioned, it's just the details of the petition and sign the petition, so no personal details to capture. And with both of these, this is then replicated in the auto response email that people get as well. So people get a thank you for signing the petition, and then we ask for them to donate. And it's all very linked up. So no matter where people are coming from, we're asking them to do both actions. For the launch, we wanted to segment our database and create what I would call our advocacy audience and our donor audience. So our donor audience were the priority. So these are people who'd either donated before or had never done anything. So they're kind of dormant supporters. And then we had our people who carried out an advocacy action but had never donated. So for the advocacy audience, we sent them the petition first. For the fundraising audience, we sent them the donation page, but then we daisy-chained them through both, so they were being asked to do both. The follow-up 2 weeks later just reversed this. So if you were previously asked to donate, we asked you to sign the petition, and vice versa. But we also used conditional content to acknowledge what people had already done before. So if they'd already donated, we included a thank you for donating and asked, could you sign the petition or could you maybe donate again? As with all well thought out campaigns, there are always curveballs and other things that come along. In this case, there was actually one that worked in our favor. So there's a facility called South Lake Safari Zoo, which Born Free has investigated multiple times over a 10-year period. Through these investigations, we found horrendous animal welfare conditions for the animals at the zoo. There were 500 animals that died in a 3-year period. There was even a keeper who was mauled to death by a tiger. So as zoos go, it's bottom of the barrel. But in October last year, the BBC published their own investigation, and there was some really shocking imagery and footage of animals suffering and even dying at the zoo. So because this is something that we've been talking about for a while, our supporters were straight on it, and they wanted to know what they could do to help. So we very quickly put together another petition, which this time was to close South Lake Safari Zoo, but then daisy-chained it into our existing donation pages for the Clawing at the Cages campaign. And it actually worked really well, and we did then generate further donations through that campaign. Coming to the results, so our total online donations were just over £22,500, so that's 12.7% above our target of 20,000. And our petition participations were 8,622. That's just on the Raw Free UK petition, not the additional South Lakes one, which was 72% above target. Donations via a petition daisy chain, so people who signed the petition and then went on to donate immediately afterwards, was almost £2,500, and that's 10.95% of our total online donations. And then the petition signatures were 582, which is 6.75. So these are not like massive, huge numbers, but they're enough to show us that it does work, and that for the amount of effort involved of just setting up one more page on a daisy chain, it's really well worth doing. And the additional donations are what took us above our target. So it was well worth doing. And also just under half of those total donations via petition daisy chain came from the South Lakes, our second petition. So it showed that like responding to what's in the news agenda worked really well for us. The email, so we typically have an email open rate of around 35%, but it can drop for appeal emails. So to have 34.41% on our fundraising launch is not bad. But what's interesting is that almost 2/3 of people who donated then immediately signed the petition. And then with our advocacy launch, the open rate was much, much higher at 51.62%, which just shows the benefit that whether it's, related to advocacy or an appeal or anything, just the benefit that segmenting can have in really boosting your open rate and making sure you're sending the right message to the right people. That first email generated 3,590 of the signatures and raised £419. So that's pretty much it. Just to say, that's obviously the marketing metrics. The campaign is ongoing, and what we have seen is that there is starting to be a shift in public opinion. There's been a recent YouGov survey which found 51% of people saying that they didn't think big cats should be kept in zoos. So although there haven't been governmental policy changes yet, public opinion is hopefully on our side and is going to help with that. Thank you.
Great. So I want to first thank Natalie for speaking at ENCC in 2025, but also for being here today and having to listen to herself, over and over again. I'm sure as she's prepped for this as well, and I know that's always kind of uncomfortable to have to do, even though she did amazing, and we're really glad to have her here. So, all that to be said, thank you, Natalie, for being here. And I wanted to encourage everyone, if you have any questions, please do drop them in. But I know we have one right now that says, is there a way to remove the echo? I don't know. That's regarding the techno. Yeah, that's a tech question. I'm sorry if there is echo. I'm gonna look into seeing if that's something we can address when I share next time for the next recording. So sorry about that. I have one. What subject lines did you use for the launch emails to get those stats for the open rates?
I'm quickly searching and trying to find back to the emails to see what we did actually use, because it was a little while ago. Bear with me. It might be better if I come back to that and drop those subject lines into the chat once I've gone back and found the emails, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. And we can always, if that person, I know they've submitted that anonymously, but if you want to reach out to
I
me
know, I
too,
have the one which was the advocacy-led email. The subject line for that was, will you join our call for a raw-free UK? So that was the advocacy one, and I'll have a look to see what the fundraising one was.
Perfect. And if anybody does have a question that they want to speak offline with Natalie, but I can always put you two in touch. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm happy to facilitate that as well. We have one that came in that says, what are the differences, the logics between creating the 4 donation pages?
So the sort of setup that we had one which was linked to by a QR code in our direct mail. So that's pretty much the same as the others. It was prioritizing one-off donations, but with an option for a recurring monthly payment. And then it would be for people to enter their full details and have the full opt-ins, because if they were coming via the DM, we may not have already had them on our digital database. Then we had the one which was for people who were coming directly from an email. So that allowed people's data to be pulled through if they were already on our email database. And that one, we used one-off donations as the priority for that, but we link to a redirect page for direct debits. So we've also got the monthly giving option. And then the way that our website is set up is we have on our appeal pages, we have a donation segment which toggles between one-off and monthly donations, because we're in the UK. If we're doing monthly donations, it's usually going to be a direct debit rather than recurring card payment. It means that they each need to go to a different Engaging Networks page. So the journey, once people have gone past the sort of technical payment side of it, is largely the same. It's just sort of on more of a sort of technical difference in how the payments are set up.
Perfect. Let me see. There's another Q&A here. And I will share this. I'll share the link to the recording here, and I will double check with everybody that we're okay to share their slides as well. I know we shared those with attendees last year at the event, so I can double check and send that out in our post event.
Yeah, and also just to say that if you do share the slides, the links to the petition and the donation pages are in there on the slides as well. I put them in the chat today just because I know you couldn't see what I had up on the big screen in that recording. So if people do want to have an actual look and run through the process themselves and see what the autoresponder email and all of that looks like, the links will be there so that you can do that.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Natalie. And I will put that in that you'll get it from Zoom. It'll just be here's the, meeting, the webinar you attended, and it'll have links to all of this stuff we're mentioning today. So another question came in. It says, can this person ask about whether the email open rates are subject to a bot filter? Our advocacy email open rates have suddenly dropped retrospectively with the introduction of a bot filter to the platform we use. There is an option to turn off the filter, but that feels like manipulating the data. Anything you can add there?
I might actually have to put this question back to you as Engaging Networks, because I'm not aware of a bot filter on broadcasts on Engaging Networks. So to the best of my knowledge, no, we don't have that. But I don't know if that's something that Engaging Networks does automatically.
No, that's a good question. It sounds like it might be something separate, a separate platform they might be using. And if that person who submitted that, I know it was an anonymous one. So if you want me to follow up with you on that, I can get with our product team or with your ASM, and we can make sure you get an answer to that if that's something that is related to Engaging Networks anyways. But
yeah,
feel free to reach out to me.
It's definitely interesting that someone else has seen that that's made a big difference specifically on their advocacy emails. So that could be good to check.
Yeah, definitely a good question. I want to ask, what are some of your best tips for kind of quickly mobilizing your supporters when there's like breaking news, when something's kind of coming out there, out onto the wires? Is there some tips that you have that you could kind of share?
I think the main thing is that you sort of have to accept that there needs to be a balance between speed and perfection. It's quite hard to be perfect if you also want to be quick. So maybe that means that the copy that you use in an email to supporters isn't the best, most perfectly crafted copy you've ever done. Or maybe there's not time to put together like a really slick video edit. And you just kind of have to go with what you've got. But I think, yeah, being okay with making that balance. The speed usually, if it's like a breaking news that you're responding to, you want to be going out the same day or maybe the next day. So I think that being responsive outweighs what you might lose by not spending longer perfecting it. And then I also think that I know for us and for a lot of charities that internal sign-off procedures can be a bit of a barrier as well. So I think where possible, it's really good if you can in advance decide who are the essential people that need sign off, who are their delegates if they're not available, and just try and keep that process as small and contained as possible. And I know that's not always easy to do, but if possible, that definitely helps with a quick response.
Love that. That's great. I'm sure you're used to having to do that quite often with things that are coming out. So it's very experienced there. We have another question that came in. First of all, they said, love the campaign name, excellent results. Their question is, do you think the celebrity involvement with the campaign made a difference to its success?
I certainly think it helps. Yeah, I think when people see the celebrities in person at the activation we did, and then when we had that video to share, it definitely gets people's attention. We find that across the board, really. We're lucky to have some great patrons who are involved, who have participated, who've done, voiceovers for our campaigns and things like that. And I definitely think it helps. I would say with our advocacy supporters, they're very highly engaged. So I think we'd get a lot of petition signatures regardless. But for the wider public awareness, I think the celebrity ambassadors make a big difference.
Agreed. That makes sense. Somebody's calling out the specific petition, the Roar Free UK petition. So they're saying, is it just collecting supporter data? Is it actually sending emails to the UK government? And if just collecting supporter data, do you find that people are kind of hesitant to provide their address if it's not an email to target action?
So that one was just a petition where it's not an email to target, and then where we will then go to the government when we feel like we've got enough signatures and do like a hand in. Do I find people, what was the question, that people are reluctant to give their postal addresses?
Yeah, their addresses if it wasn't a directly related kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the completion rate on the petition pages was pretty good. We didn't see like a big drop off between people landing on the page and then not completing. We don't always ask for a postal address on petitions for that reason, and we usually try and make it optional. So that's actually something which, since we ran that campaign, which was about, must be coming up to 18 months ago now, one of the big things we have been looking at is our opt-in, opt-outs, and what data we ask for. So we're trying to balance getting the data so that we can mail to people, and not putting people off. So yeah, it has an effect, but I don't think it had a big negative effect on that particular petition.
That's a good question there. I like that.
Yeah.
So one person kind of asking a little bit more of the technical aspects of the campaign. How many, it put you on the spot a little bit, but do you know how many emails you sent in total asking to sign the petition to make a donation?
I assume that means like how many broadcasts rather than how many people it went to.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's how many they're receiving. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did, I think we did 5 or 6 in total, but with some of that being that flip between the different audiences. So our week 1 and our week 2 emails, they were 2 emails, but reverse segments, if that made sense. So it was the same email pretty much, but someone getting it twice, and then a third follow-up after that, as well. And then, yeah, I think there's another bit in there about resends to non-openers. I don't typically do that because my understanding is that the information on opens is not always the most accurate. So I don't want to be doing a direct resend because I think someone hasn't opened when actually it's just not tracked as an open. We do it for smaller campaigns, we tend to do it. So if it's more of like emailing our event attendees, and I need to like get their dietary requirements, then I'll do a resend to people that appear to have not opened. But for one like that, we'd rather just send them a brand new second email rather than do a resend.
Perfect. Yeah. And then they're asking kind of what the time frame was that this ran on, this particular campaign.
So we launched it in September 2024. And it was actually the launch date was led by the live activation, because as you can probably imagine, that was the bit that was hardest to pull together all of the different elements. And then we kind of ran that over about 2 months of heavy campaigning around it. And then I can see that they've asked as well about the results. So although that was the sort of key focus of the campaign, it's very much an ongoing issue for us that we do come back to when the topic's in the news or when we're talking about zoos. The latest sort of update on that side is there is no update with regards to banning the breeding of big cats in zoos. Unfortunately, the UK government published a revised modern zoo standards, I think it's called, last year, which had some improvements for some species in terms of larger enclosures and things that would improve their living standards, but it's definitely not where we're campaigning for it to be. So the campaign continues.
Yeah. Okay. More work to be done.
Yeah.
One more question I'm going to ask here is, do you find that starting to ask advocacy engaged supporters for donation leads to any drop off? kind of making that switch. I don't know if that's something
Mhm.
you have experience with.
Um, I haven't, in terms of the daisy chaining, no, because there isn't really an opportunity for them to drop off in terms of like opting out, because they'll just sign the petition, it'll say thank you. Would you like to donate? If they don't want to donate, they can just close the page, they can leave, but it's not like an opt out at that point. So that definitely doesn't. In terms of when people receive more emails, there is some, like when I look at our unsubscribe rates, a fundraising email will have a slightly higher unsubscribe rate than an advocacy email. So we just try to sort of really target, segment, not hit people with too many asks, to try and minimize that as much as possible. And I think it's also something where like there's more testing to be done of like what's the ideal time to introduce a fundraising ask, and how much split of content there should be. I don't know if that answers it exactly.
Yeah, I think it's a delicate balance. They did say that was
Mhm.
helpful, so thank you. Yeah.
Okay, great.
But yeah, that's I think that's probably a very delicate balance to kind of figure out. There's no one size fits all, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I want to just close this portion of the session here by asking just Natalie if you have any other future campaigns you want to share, or kind of what's next on this front within, maybe from a high level. It's such an
Ooh.
interesting campaign. I would love to just, I'm sure everybody else would love to know too if there's anything else that is coming out soon. So.
Yeah, so we're not doing another big cat campaign at the minute. We've the most recent one we did around zoos was around great apes, which is another species that we believe are very much not able to thrive in a zoo environment. Campaigns we've got coming up. We've got something coming up later this year around dangerous wild animals that are kept as pets, which I think will be quite interesting. Spoiler alert, you can keep almost anything in the UK as a pet. So we have that. We're currently running a fundraising appeal, which is on a bit of a different sort of subject, but it's for an elephant sanctuary. So it's Europe's first large-scale elephant sanctuary, and it's to provide a home to elephants which are currently in unsuitable captive situations. So that could be zoos, it could be circuses. So yeah, that's our current fundraising appeal. There's an elephant who was taken from the wild as a baby in the 80s. She spent 40 years in captivity. The last 10 years she's been living by herself, which elephants are not made to be solitary animals. They're very social. So we are trying to get her to her sanctuary home at Pangea Sanctuary. So that's our big fundraising campaign at the minute.
That's amazing. Amazing work that you're doing and your organization's doing. And
Thank you.
really, again, thank you for just answering all these questions and for presenting last year. And I think we've already talked. Natalie's going to try to be at ENCC London this year. So if anybody would want to, another reason to be there, if you want to ask more questions
Most
in
definitely.
person, yeah, say hello. But thank you again, Natalie, for being here. And we look forward to hearing more from you and from Born Free in the coming days.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, Natalie's going to drop off, and I'm going to. And there we go, Mon. Thank you so much for being here. Next up is Mon Sakban from the National Trust for Historic Places, and her session is called "On the Road with Engaging Networks Peer-to-Peer: The Route 66 Edition," and this is from ENCC DC. And I want to, before we jump into it, just to encourage everybody again, just use that Q&A section, drop them questions in as you have them. We'll make sure we address them in the order they came in if we can. And then we'll have this live Q&A at the end as we just did with Natalie. So let me make sure I do this right again. And please, if anybody does have any technological issues with sound or anything, let me know. I'm also putting in the links to apply to be a speaker at an ENCC this year. We'd love to hear your ideas, so feel free to check that out in the chat as well. But let me go ahead and pull this
Thanks,
up.
Austin.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. Let me pull this up real quick and make sure I share the right screen here. All right. Okay. Cue it up. We'll see you on the other side.
My name is Mansak Dalan. I have been with the National Trust for 7 years. I'm the Director of Digital Production and Database Management. I'm based here in Washington, D.C. I've been here since 2009. I've been a web developer, front end, for over 20 years now. I wear several hats. I am an Engage Networks partner, and I side hustle like crazy. So I have a couple of other side gigs that I do on the regular. About the National Trust, we've been around for 75 years. The National Trust for Historic Preservation has led the movement to save America's historic places. We are a privately funded nonprofit. We work to save America's historic sites, tell the full American story, build stronger communities, and invest in preservation's future. Show of hands. How many of you have been on a road trip this year? How many of you have been on a road trip through Route 66? Ooh, yay. Right, so Route 66 has been called a mother road. It was established in 1926. It is going on its 100th year. And I did put a fun fact earlier, I didn't say that, but my bestie and I from high school, she's coming from the Philippines. And then next year, we're going to do a Route 66 trip just in honor of its 100th year anniversary. So I'm so excited. It stretches from over 2,400 miles from Chicago to Santa Monica, and that covers 8 states. I should have done like a quiz earlier, like who could name the 8 states, but like, we'll see maybe later. Unfortunately, decommissioned in 1985, and its vintage motels, neon signs, and landmarks still capture the nation's imagination. And this is one of the things that the Preserve Route 66 campaign that the National Trust has that has been kind of ongoing for the past few years. Could we play this video here? There should be like a press play. Oh.
There's a legendary road that stretches
Right, so while he's doing that,
448 miles connecting Chicago to Los Angeles, known as Route 66. It's home.
While he's doing that, so an influencer reached out to us this summer, and he said that he was going to do the Route 66 tour and try each restaurant.
Unique landmarks.
And so this is a quick
and most importantly,
snippet of
restaurants that have served travelers for decades. I've been planning a road trip along this historic road because I really want to eat at its most famous spots. And over the next few days, I'm finally turning that dream into reality. This is a 5-part story that begins all the way at the beginning of the route in a place nicknamed the Windy City.
The first restaurant is about 10 blocks that way, so let's start walking.
Now, for those who don't know,
we're going to do like a minute, if that's
original
okay.
U.S. highways, established in 1926, and it goes across 8 different states.
I promise I'm going to have a car for the rest of this. I just wanted to get some cardio in since I'm going to be eating a lot over the next 5 days.
After a quick 20-minute stroll, I finally made it to restaurant number 1,
Lou Mitchell's. I saw pictures of this place online, but the outside looks way cooler. So this breakfast spot has been around since 1923, and apparently it's nicknamed the first stop on the Mother Road.
That's just another nickname for Route 66, by the way, because it basically gave rise to everything we now associate with the Great American Road Trip, like diners, hotels, gas stations, and the weird roadside stuff in between.
I'm really excited to try this place, but I'm also a little nervous because this is going to set the tone for my entire journey. It's literally the first place, and I really hope it's good. Good morning. Just for one. Oh, perfect. Yeah, thank you so much.
We're
Just
good.
Walking in, it was obvious that this quirky...
Okay, thanks for bearing with me. So that was one of the short clips of the 5 videos. So backstory, Dylan reached out to the National Trust. He said, I'm going to do I did Route 66. We filmed it, and we would like to select the National Trust as a charity of choice and put in, like promote National Trust mission within the video. Would you be able to create a page? So this is why I'm here, right? So immediately it was like, oh man, let's do a peer-to-peer page. The National Trust did not have peer-to-peer then. So it was like a scramble for a week to like get peer-to-peer in place, build a peer-to-peer page, and then make it happen. It was really, really exciting. First of all, like I watched a few of his videos and I'm like, oh, psych, this is just like, I love it. I love it. To have like a content creator, influencer, you know, doing this for us, and like, let's do it. Let's make it happen. So just a few things, right? He created a 5-part YouTube mini-series. And if you watch the video, he brings in the Cars reference. How many of you have watched the movie Cars? Like Disney Pixar Cars, Life is a Highway. Okay. Yeah, it was so fun because then he went to some of the places that had like all these Cars themed, like that's why I want to do it. Like all the Cars themed characters too. And then also like ate at the different restaurants. They ranked it with his producer, Jim. And it was just like, he's a young kid. So when I watched the series, my son who's 20 and his girlfriend, we just kind of like got in it. Like we were so ready to like watch it like every few days that it came out. Take a screenshot if you want to just look for it. It's super fun. They're short, but they were like super fun to watch. Okay, so just talking a little bit more about the collaboration. Built a page. He wanted to raise $10,000. This is like going to be a new audience for the National Trust, right? It is like the Dylan audience, the TikTok, the YouTube, the Instagram kids. And so we knew that there were going to be some low dollar donations, but it was like, hey, let's try it. Why not? We already have like a Preserve Route 66 campaign. So that's one of the, you know, landing pages that talks about Route 66, but then we created a custom peer-to-peer landing page, which he also promoted in his YouTube page, and then embedded links in his video that pointed to the Route 66 custom page, Route 66 custom peer-to-peer page for him. Here's a sample of the peer-to-peer landing page. And then here is, maybe later I'll talk about the sample of the donation page. It will be somewhere here. So at the end of each episode, he promoted support for Route 66. There was a clear path to savingplaces.org/Dylan. There were links in his video descriptions. In fact, he gave away prizes too. Like, hey, verbal thank you if you give $1,000. If you give $250, I'll add your name to the end screen. So yeah, there were incentives that were mentioned at the end screen of each video. Some results. So 5 videos uploaded. Total number of views were 4.3 million views. Lots of comments, a lot of likes, and he gained a lot of new subscribers. And then July 7th, he received the highest number of views, which is 1.8 million. And results in some reach in our side, the National Trust, right? Definitely high engagement in YouTube and TikTok young audiences. There was a traffic spike in our Route 66 landing page and other Route 66 stories. There were increased donations and list growth. And I'll talk about some learning outcomes after, which was close to $6,000 at that time in a few weeks. And then just a roadmap to replication. If you want to kind of like replicate something like this, identify creators with engaged audiences, invite co-created ideas, develop branded assets and simple links, which is what he did, provide messaging, support, and data insights, and track and optimize clicks, origin sources, leads, and conversions. Okay, some key takeaways. Take advantage of any kind of content creator, influencer collaboration that can help drive your engagement. Obviously, an authentic storytelling will always win. Like, I myself was just like so excited with Dylan's story, and then like I got my son, I got his girlfriend, and we were all watching it. I texted Marcy, I texted Clint. I think I slacked the entire EN team, like, hey, watch this, because this is like really super cool. Cross-channel promotion matters. There's the ongoing Preserve Route 66 campaign. There was a Q&A afterwards with Dylan. I think there was a Zoom call with him, and I was just so excited. I took a screenshot of it. Social media promotion, email, landing pages, you guys know. Some campaign learnings. And so because it was really rushed, we were not able to really hone on creative welcome series content for the audiences, the quick audiences that we got. So we did see a drop in people who signed up and then like dropped right away. And so I guess my learning lesson for that is really come up with a strategy. If you guys are gonna have some kind of hot, short campaign, also come up with like a strategy for post, any kind of post campaigns for that. So I'm big with learning outcomes and what I could do after. And so, like I said, origin sources, maybe custom welcome series, and really engaging that specific group in a very specific way, knowing that they're a different audience, that they are probably low dollar donors, or maybe have never even heard of the National Trust, but know of Route 66 because of Dylan. Future potentials, right? Next year is a Route 66 Centennial celebration. CARS is also going to have their 20th anniversary, and kind of I just threw this, maybe expand it to other, content creators, influencer content and ads, and maybe working with creator-based influencer marketing agencies like Social Current or M&R. Okay, so as I told you guys earlier, I did say I was going to break down peer-to-peer because it's such a new tool that Engagement Networks has, this new peer-to-peer. So I'm going to break it down with how it looks with the National Trust pages and kind of just share a few other client samples that I've done in the last year with different clients. So this is Dylan's peer-to-peer page, which is the National Trust Route 66 campaign page. This is how the donation page looks like. And just to let everyone know, if you do decide to create your peer-to-peer page with Engagement Networks, it does work with your original, like your existing template. So all you have to do is kind of duplicate your template and then kind of make it work for peer-to-peer. So you don't have to like really heavily invest in a new build of a new template. There will be a few other pages you'd have to create, but you could work off your existing template. ALS Canada is one of my clients, and they came to me and they wanted to do fundraising event, like a DIY event. So you're going to see a sample of these fundraisers that they have. There's a lot of ways that, a lot of things that you could do with the peer-to-peer tool. Like you could see here, you could have a company event, you could do a sports event, you could do a seasonal event. And so it's not just like, hey, I'm going to do just this one thing, right? You can have like a DIY of that sort. Standard, again, you could use, I just pulled in their existing template, and then they'll have like their own profile page, similar to Dylan's. They'll have their own profile page, and then the donor role can leave comments as well. In traditional peer-to-peer, you'll have a leaderboard, so that is available with the Engagement Networks peer-to-peer tool. And then a special project that I did, which is really what I advocated for with ALS, was, and this took a while for us to like move this project forward. And thanks again to Engagement Networks for making it happen, because you could actually build tribute peer-to-peer pages within the peer-to-peer tool in Engagement Networks. I know I have a minute left. But what I really like about it is it's not the peer-to-peer where you're saying, hey, I'm fundraising for a team, I'm fundraising for a DIY. I'm fundraising for a person that passed away, and I want to create a dedicated tribute page where it's really like an honor and memorial, can leave honor memorial messages. It doesn't look like a leaderboard, right? It's not like, here are my top teams. No, these are the people that we want to honor. So that's actually available within Engagement Networks. I really highly advocated for Ian to make that happen, and I want to thank them for making that happen this year. So here you can see it's an in honor, that's all tribute details. These are FIM rows for the data folks out there. They come out as a FIM transaction too. So like if you have like those FIM fields that you need to map into your database of record, it will push that way too. And then, yeah, like I said, it's not a leaderboard. These are just your recent online tributes. It's very solemn. You're not showing like a, hey, I raised $5,000 for this. It's just who they are. Sample highlights, and then of course, custom messaging on different scenarios, right? Engagement Networks allows for that. Messaging on the person that created the page, messaging on after they've created. So just like for those who have created peer-to-peer, you could allow the different types of messaging, the welcome messaging, messaging for the team captains, yeah. Another one is Children's Aid Foundation Canada, something similar. Just wanted to share that like theirs is just like a straightforward one. And then you could do individuals and you can do teams. If I didn't say that earlier, you could do that. And that's it. Thank you so much.
All right. Perfect. Thanks so much, Mon. And I promise I didn't pick this one because I'm biased because Mon's great, but also because I actually live on Route 66 in the New Mexico portion. So it's a great campaign. It's a great, there's lots of cool stuff to see. I hope, Mon, when you stop through, you say hey, if you come through New Mexico anyways. But
Definitely coming through.
there you
Yeah.
go. And anyone else for that matter, let me know if you're coming through. But it's a great campaign. So perfect. Well, thanks so much for being here, Mon. Such a great session. We had a lot of people call this out as a really fun one that they really enjoyed at this past DNC. Encourage everyone to drop your questions or any insights or anything you want to ask Mon. I have a question for you, Mon, which was why was the Route 66 campaign a peer-to-peer campaign instead of just like a more traditional kind of donation form campaign, something a little more basic?
Yeah, the peer-to-peer tool allows people to leave messages. And we wanted to make sure that people who are on YouTube are able to go to the peer-to-peer dedicated page for Dylan and also leave messages and give a little bit of like a donor roll of how much was being raised. We wanted a thermometer. I know the regular donation pages allow a thermometer, but it was specifically for those little messages. It was also a good way to like, hey, let's get peer-to-peer started. Just yeah.
To have a reason to launch into it. That's great. Oh, and I love the way you set it up anyways too. It sounds like it's a lot more dynamic than the traditional kind of donation form there. Um, is if an organization is launching their peer-to-peer program for the first time, what is one tip that they should really just be sure to zero in on?
That it doesn't have to be that complicated. I guess that's the biggest thing. People feel like, oh, we're gonna start peer-to-peer, finally start peer-to-peer. We need to have a huge event around it. You don't have to have one. The campaign that we did with Dylan was a dedicated peer-to-peer page. It's not like I know I showcased other clients, but those were like big events. It had like many complexities to it. It is possible to just create, hey, I have a CEO, I have a trustee, I have a board. They want to have specific pages. You could do that in the peer-to-peer tool and allow their friends or them to share that within their community. Austin,
Sorry, just realized I was muted. Thank you. No, I was just going to say that's great advice, probably for a variety of things. Don't overcomplicate it, right? Just to keep it simple and not overdo it. That's great. So have you ever organized a peer-to-peer campaign just to bring in advocates and activists that could then be converted into donors later on?
Yeah, I think this Route 66 campaign was one of those. Like we knew that it was very experimental. We know that we have a highly visited Route 66 page, which I'm gonna promote. Wait, let me just put a link here. Because now that we're celebrating our 100th year, we actually did a partnership with Google, and when we did like a rewind Route 66 trip, which AI kind of reconstructed how you guys really need to take a look at it, how Route 66 looked through the years. And it's actually like this, it's experience where you're driving through Route 66 all the way from Illinois to California. Austin, it's gonna pass through New Mexico. So like do it with your kids. And you're really kind of just like on the steering wheel, pressing the radio button. It's worth looking into. Like I said, we were trying to also do it for just a lot of engagement and trying to create awareness for Route 66. And of course, the donations are a plus.
That's great. Gosh. So you had this program with Dylan that then evolved into this one that you just shared, or was that kind of part of the reason you were able to make
The
that
Google
connection?
project is a collaboration with 20 other organizations. So that Google grant has been there. We've been working on it for years. The Dylan collaboration was new because he came to us that summer and he said, hey, I'm doing a Route 66 trip, and we just all rallied around him. We were so excited to get a whole different audience to come into the National Trust. mean, he's in his late 20s or maybe early 30s, and he's super highly visited on TikTok. The series, just the specific Route 66 series, has now over 7.2 million views. And so it's amazing that it's still growing. And he did say now that we're in our 100th anniversary, he's going to continue to promote it, and hopefully we get more engagement and more donors.
That's amazing. Yeah, perfect. I was just gonna say, yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff happening on the road that I mean, I know like in our community, a lot of festivals, a lot of things happening, a lot of really interesting things. So I'm sure you will have many opportunities to revamp this campaign and do different things with it because it's an exciting time this year. So I have a question that came in here. It says, were there many hoops to jump through internally to go about working with Dylan in the first place? This person kind of says one of the issues that we face in getting approval to work with influencers is because higher powers may not have heard of them, trust them, just kind of putting that trust in them and putting your logo next to it, next to them. Was that an issue at all, or can you walk us through that?
I'm gonna say that would the Dylan series, we basically had like 2 weeks or none. And at that point it was, are we gonna partner with him? But he already did the video, right? Um, and so we were forced to like really come together with the higher ups, as you were saying, Helen, and just try to really get buy-in. I'm gonna say thank you to Engaging Networks, because they weren't sure if we were ready to add a peer-to-peer tool. And I just called and say, hey, could you give this to us for free just for 60 days and then we'll figure it out. And they immediately turned it on and like, yeah, let's give you a free trial and then let's see. So work with Ian if there's any projects that you really want to do. Not, I know I'm super promoting Ian all the time, but really just talk to your representative because they'll work with you. I remember reaching out to you, Marcy, right away, right? Hey, we're doing this. So we were able to launch it in a week, which is exactly what the time that I had from zero to like launch of the page. We were able to launch it in a week. Am I still having some challenges with other possible influencers and other campaigns? I think yes. Just like in any organization. So there's a lot of vetting, there's a lot of seeing if it's going to work for other possible projects. I think that's the nature of it. We were lucky with this, but I'm always going to advocate for new ways to raise money and new ways. But it was definitely an eye opener, because now we're looking into using peer-to-peer for one of our bigger ongoing campaigns.
That's great. Great insights there. And I would add, just to piggyback on, first of all, thank you for, on behalf of Engaging Networks, all this great work you do. But also, if you do have any ideas, questions about peer-to-peer, about anything, talk to your account success manager, talk to me. I can get you to the right place. But like, yeah, I'd like to think to back that up, that we're really, pretty flexible and open to ideas and questions and stuff like that. So don't hesitate to reach out, I guess is what I'm saying. So,
and I think to add, I did say this during the session, because of the shortness of it, we were not really able to create any. We did put on origin source, but we're not able to create like dedicated welcome series or dedicated just like splitting the audience. And that attributed to like people unsubscribing, because all of a sudden they were getting, they were in the general loop of all the national trust, emails, and that's on us. We were not, that we did not segment them, and it created like a dedicated series for them before we put them into the general audience. And so we did lose about 40% of our donors, trying to recap, kind of retarget them now somehow.
Well, to pull it all together in a week, I don't know that I could have ever, or anybody could have ever done something like that. So that makes sense that there'd be some of that, some of those hindsight is 2020 moments that you'd probably have. But it's an amazing campaign outside of that. One question that related to the one we just had asked is, did you find that working with an influencer in this way generated more media interest too? If there was more PR media kind of things that kind of followed, if that was kind of an added benefit as well?
Yeah, I think also just earlier Natalie said absolutely. Yeah. And getting an influencer or a content creator to support your cause is always like a good way of getting in, new audiences. getting someone to, like you don't always have to do your own party, right? So getting someone else to promote your cause is always a good way. And just seeing, hey, just A/B test it or test it. I did promote a few other kind of like content creator matchers that you could just Google it, Eminar, Social Current, or one of a few, but I've had conversations with them about it.
Amazing. Well, I mean, it's an amazing campaign. The videos are great. Dylan's videos are honestly just truly entertaining, and you should watch them and go check the campaign out and everything that Mon shared. But thank you so much, Mon, for being here. Thank you for answering our questions. If anybody has any other questions, I can make sure I connect you with Mon and kind of put those questions to her if you think of anything after this. But thank you so much for being here. And as much as I watched Cars with when my kids were young, I actually feel like I maybe need to watch it again now. So give it another shot. But
yeah, thanks, Austin. Thanks for having me present again.
Yeah, thanks again, Mon. We'll see ya.
Looking forward to Ryan's session. Hey, Ryan.
That's right. Yeah, we got one more here.
Hey, Mon. Thank you. That was great. Amazing.
Agreed. Yeah. Thank you, Mon. Thank you, Natalie. And now we're going to jump into our last but not least, a really great session here from Ryan Balarjan from Grass Riots and Kevin Kardash from the University of Ottawa. And their session was from ENCC Toronto. No surprise, the University of Ottawa. Partnering for Impact, the U Ottawa Giving Day success story. And they had some really great takeaways, so you're going to want to stick around for this. But another reminder, first of all, thank you to Kevin and Ryan for being here in person, but also for anybody, as you have questions, to drop those in the Q&A section. And we'll kind of round off our session here today with this really great option here to see their session. So let me pull this up again and make sure again that I select everything the right way here so you can actually hear it. So bear with me here for just a minute. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and share and play, and we'll see them for the live Q&A.
My name's Ryan Balarjan. I'm the founder of Grass Riots. I'm a digital technologist for the nonprofit sector. I've been around for a long time now, and one of my favorite things is to work with this community of engaging networks, users, and clients. I've been a client myself. Graham Covington used to answer my support calls back in 2005, and I've been a consultant working with clients in this community since 2011.
I'm Kevin Kardash with the University of Ottawa. I got into advancement a little over 20 years ago. I'm from Ohio, and I was brought into McGill University to run the CRM and oversee a team of programmers and other fantastic data professionals. And I did consulting for a while, and now I've been at the University of Ottawa for about 9 years. Yeah, so the first slide, what happens when your fundraising vision is bigger than your platform? I should first start out by saying we're going to get to Giving Day at the end of the presentation. It was quite a road to get there. And we were confronted with all kinds of challenges, which is why we decided to go with engaging networks. But first, a little bit about Ottawa. We're the world's largest bilingual French and English university. So for us, a solution that works perfectly in both French and English was absolutely important. There's a whole bunch of solutions out there that sort of are bilingual, but they really aren't. So this is super important to us. We have 45,000 students, 10,000 employees, and nearly 300,000 alumni. And we market to various intensities to all of them. We have 10 faculties, multiple research centers, dozens of support teams. We're what's called the U15 University. We're one of the 15 doctoral research intensive universities in Canada. And we have a medical school. And so what this brings us to is that we have lots of causes. At the bottom of the slide there, it says we have 2,600 specialized funds. So that might sound completely crazy, and it is. It drives us mad. But what universities have found is that by catering to the donor and the donor's need and allowing that donor to support what they believe in, we're able to raise money like the number you see at the top. So we just finished a campaign, a little over 10 years, over $500 million. And for a large public university, that's not even that big. But that's what universities are able to do I believe largely because we've honed in on people's personal needs. If we look at the 1980s, 70% of our donors at Ottawa would donate to unrestricted giving, something called University's Greatest Needs, where the president and the people who advise the president can decide where that donor money should go to best meet the needs of the university. Today, only 7% of donors are willing to support an unrestricted gift. So what we're finding is that people's needs are not necessarily the institution's needs, and so it's a constant challenge to try and marry those together so that both needs are met and that the donor, most importantly, is satisfied. And when I go to most nonprofit websites, I notice that there isn't really donor choice, and I don't have any empirical proof that this would work for you. But for example, I donate every month to an organization called Dans la Rue in Montreal. I live in Montreal. They support homeless youth, but I wonder, what if they gave me a choice? Do I want to support housing? Do I want to support food? Do I want to support job training? Would they raise more money overall if they gave me, the donor, a choice? And again, I can't prove it, but it's something to consider. I do know that that approach works for us. So for us, personalization, not only in terms of what we offer people to support, but in the way we write the email, the way we approach them as individuals, personalization is no longer optional, it's essential. The other challenge that we have is that online giving has been a shrinking portion of the money we take in. So in the year that just finished, we raised $50 million, and online giving only accounted for $1 million of it. And that actually has been going down over the last 5 years. We believe that there's a reason for that, and we'll get to that later on. But one of our goals, of course, is to increase the proportion of online giving revenue in terms of overall revenue. And that is the trend in our industry in higher ed, and I'm sure it's the trend for all of you as well. So we knew that we needed both better technology and the right implementation partner. And we had all these needs. So for example, we need this highly personalized experience. We need for people to be able to find the cause that they support. Like if we have 1,300 causes that are available online, how do they find it? And if someone wants to support 2 causes or 3 causes, how do we enable them to do that? And then what this presentation is leading up to is Giving Day. Universities have been very successful in having one day a year in which they raise a lot of money all of a sudden. And we needed a platform and a way to do that effectively. So for technical requirements, we have lots of different faculties, research centers, and lots of causes. And each of them can have their own special branding, their own special messaging, their own special photographs that appear on the page. Donors wanted to donate in more ways, and so I believe Apple Pay and Google Pay and things like that are the way of the future. I think 5 years from now, not too many people will be using credit cards because what's the point? And it's less secure. We needed a visual appeal that was truly gripping, where someone sees it and they don't want to leave the page. And all the complexity that we need, it can't appear complex to the user. Donor cannot be confused by it. It has to be very streamlined. It has to just flow easily. And we need to pack lots of information into the URL that they click on for various reasons. And we needed to basically accommodate lots of complexity without sacrificing experience, and offer people lots of choices. So what did we do? Our news.
I did insert the slide.
Okay, we're missing a slide. So I'll just say the slide out loud. We chose engaging networks, but then we went about to say, well, what do we want to do with it? So we went through literally 3 dozen different organizations, about a dozen universities and a couple dozen other nonprofits, and we looked for great ideas about what we could do to solve our issues. And among the most important is the user experience. So at least in higher ed, what the stats say is the highest predictor of someone donating online is the experience they have when they get to the form. So all the work we put into the perfect email and the perfect photograph and the perfect pitch and the perfect branding and the perfect logo and all that, what is the highest predictor, at least in our industry, is the experience they have when they get to that form. So we needed really good ideas, and we actually did come up with a list of ideas around how to accomplish all the things I just talked about. And then we called Ryan.
Thanks, Kevin. So I want to hit the point that having a partner like U Ottawa on this project was amazing. I mean, they brought so much to the table, as Kevin talked about, the research and the requirements that they brought as a starting point, and it really allowed us to direct our thinking towards a result that was the ultimate solution that Kevin and his team were looking for. You know, one thing that, you know, I'm walking you a little bit about what things looked like as we started this project, but it really was a three-way partnership between Grassroots, U Ottawa, and Engaging Networks. And I would say that a big part of that was the careful consideration and thoughtfulness in terms of the engineering solutions that were necessary for this account in order to bring it to life. It was a really great collaboration. Everything starts with discovery and data review and an implementation. I think this is important. It's important for us to know what the client's needs are. It's important for us to know what the objectives are, what the challenges are, and why they're moving. But one thing that was new for us was the requirement to have run a fit and gap analysis. And who's ever run a fit and gap analysis before on their projects? This is a really great way for us to translate technical and user experience requirements into an acceptability phase to say, like, okay, if you say you can do this, how are you going to do this? Prove this. Show us where the fits are, show us where the gaps are. And it's an interstitial stage that we weren't very familiar with, but that Kevin's team brought to the table. And it actually led to a lot more engineering thinking early in the project that stayed with us throughout. You know, this was a project that was heavy on user experience, and what we knew was we were going to have to bring in the best. We were with one of our favorite partners, Matt Cook. Matt Cook is a UX developer here in Toronto. Look him up. I encourage you to reach out if you have needs in that area. Being able to provide iterative solutions around some of these problems, to take all of the research that Kevin's team had brought, looking at these other organizations, thinking about how we solve some of these big ideas, problems like 1,300 funds. That was a really thorough process for us. Moving into detailed designs, going into platform setup, then into the data migration, and data migration as well here. The challenges for us were having to find a way to move a lot more data between our fundraising forms and your CRM that weren't necessarily a built-in feature of Engaging Networks. And this is also where we brought in a partner, JMG Solutions, Jeff Gignac, to advise us on how to best use his super importer tool to accommodate some of these unique requirements. And then into our main form development, and then into specialty forms. And starting with like our base form, what is our general fundraising form? Let's solve all of the problems here. Let's do the majority of the work in user experience, do the iterative design, do the QA, have that ready to go, and then start moving into specialty forms, branded forms for other parts of the organization, telemarketing forms, fundraiser forms. And then finally, ultimately, Giving Day, which we think is like the best expression of the infrastructure that we built to solve a totally different problem. So this is what we created. And there are some very unique parts of this experience that are about how to solve the problem of giving a user choice, of providing findability, of providing a lot of flexibility, and also being able to direct people to an ultimate decision. Some things you'll see here are the search, for instance. So fund selection without split gifts. What we found in your research and in our research is how hard it was to actually choose a donation amount and then have to like do percentages across a number of different funds. If you had 1 or 3 funds, and all of these different UI and UX controls led to a lot of math. And math is a barrier. If you're trying to get someone to make a donation, don't make them do math and don't present math to them. And so here we went towards more of a shopping cart, all right? You select your funds, or you choose from a number of pre-selected selected funds, and you just choose how much you're going to donate to that fund. The ability to navigate through a user experience control. We use the material design dropdown, smart search. So as you start typing, the selection of funds gets less. It's a multi-select tool, so you can select multiple funds, and they appear in your selected funds. You then add the donation amount that can be from the range, a gift array that we preset, or your other amount. And then once you have selected your funds, on the right side, you have your checkout cart. So we stole from some of the, the best things that are out there. People are used to e-commerce experiences. They're used to using an Amazon checkout. So every fund, once you select it and add a value, it becomes a part of your shopping cart. And now you see the list of funds that you're donating to. You add your transaction fee, and that becomes a line item as well. Now we didn't have to use split funds. Now we could have just ultimately one dollar amount that a person would be submitting. And now we would have the work and the necessity to somehow tell the CRM that this was happening. And this was the solution that we provided on the left. The solution was that we took a transactional field in Engaging Networks and created essentially what's called a map. We calculated that with the space we had, we could have up to 5 funds plus a transaction fee cover. So that was the ceiling, 5 funds at a time. In the UX research, 1 was obviously the median. Most people donated 1. Some people, if they were doing multiple funds, 2 and 3 were kind of the options. Very few people were donating above 3 funds at a time. We like those people. We want to encourage those people. But so our solution would work technically for the majority of users, as well as being able to provide the fund ID, the amount that was donated to that fund. This information gets submitted through the transaction into the super importer and then mapped into Razor's Edge and ultimately your Oracle database of record. So you see there at the bottom, from EN to super importer to Razor's Edge. So this is where we worked with JMG Solutions to make sure that this format would translate into the data getting into Razor's Edge and being processed properly. This is our list of funds. And we had a challenge here too, because this is a list of funds that changes all the time. And it changes on Razor's Edge. It gets updated in their database of record. And there's a bit of a bi-directional sync between those two. But ultimately, we need this information to appear in EN. We need the person on the fundraising page to be able to go through a list of 1,300 funds. And if that list of funds gets updated, I don't want somebody to have to output a CSV file and update Engaging Networks. And so we, along with Kevin's team, they created a piece of middleware with a little bit of our direction. And that piece of middleware would just transfer the funds to Google Sheets. And we have a great connector that we use between Engaging Networks and Google Sheets in order to bring any kind of organized data into our fundraising and advocacy solutions. And so we could do that, build the UI out, have some resiliency, make sure that if that connector would ever down, we would always have a backup. But that allowed us to have this dynamic list of funds, always be ready to go and always be ready for populated. And then ultimately solving some of the other cool problems, like the ability for us to be able to change, gift arrays or have conditional content on pages. U Ottawa isn't using the email module, and what we still wanted the ability for them to send email campaigns that would be targeted to specific segments, and those segments would be able to have specific gift arrays. Maybe they're major donors or mid-level donors. Maybe they're trying to increase the average gift for an audience. We use shell profiles. So this is using the current profile tool in Engaging Networks. Essentially an empty profile. It gives us an ID, and that ID, when we send it in the URL, we can conditionalize a piece of content, we can conditionalize a gift array, or we can conditionalize both a content and a gift array. So this was using something that is in Engaging Networks. This works for a number of different situations, but using it in a way that created a framework for U Ottawa to have the ability to implement this feature. Other things we did on the form were to implement address verification, address lookup, the ability to donate on behalf of a company, also employee giving, which was an important type of giving for U Ottawa. So that every form has the ability for a U Ottawa employee to put in their ID, not process a transaction with their credit card, but cash as a check or cash, And then down in their CRM, the team over there knows how to initiate an employee giving transaction, just comes off their paycheck every month. Ultimately, once we had this great foundation, U Ottawa was looking at us and saying, like, Giving Day is the ultimate goal here. How can we take this infrastructure and deploy it with this solution? And with the work that we had done on our user experience, we wanted to make sure that we had those capabilities. At the time, peer-to-peer wasn't a viable solution for us because mostly of the of having to do this in French and English, having to have integrated thermometers. Essentially what we did was we merged a number of the technologies that you saw into providing the solution. So this is a standard Engaging Networks fundraising page. And this is connected to a Google spreadsheet that references other projects in the Giving Day program. And those other projects are fundraising pages. We load in that spreadsheet, we build out each of these cards, and when the user selects a project, they're just navigating to another Engaging Networks fundraising page. So this allowed us, with this spreadsheet, to populate a fundraising page with all of these great projects. For U Ottawa to be able to manage those projects, not in Engaging Networks, but in a spreadsheet so that they could update copy, they could update titles, they could add in images. And that let a team of people with a variety of skills and experience in Engaging Networks still manage this properly. And then ultimately be able to make a selection and navigate to their fundraising page. And Kevin, you want to talk about the results?
So we've done other Giving Days in the past, and some of them have been very heavily promoted, and this one was heavily promoted as well. Some have been done with lots of energy and enthusiasm, as this one was done, but this time we more than doubled any other previous Giving Day. The only thing I can attribute it to was the experience that the user had once they got there. And so kudos to the folks at Grass Riots and to my team as well, some of whom are here today. I think that this is what made the difference. And as you see there, 30% of those who donated were either brand new donors or were long lapsed. They haven't donated for 8 or 9 years, right? And that we've more than doubled the revenue and the donors from any previous period. So $250,000 for a large public university, that's actually not that great. The university of our size should probably be doing $1 million for a Giving Day, but we've already doubled. So if we double again next year and again next year, we'll be there.
Next slide. And so, just in general, one of the things that has led this relationship to be very successful is one, to have thoughtful communication between partners, to really have that both sides be really invested in a vision for what is possible, and to push each other, I think, to both bring engineering solutions, but also solutions that met really rigorous user experience requirements. So I'm really grateful for that experience.
As are we.
Grass Riots is a full-service Engaging Networks partner. Please look us up. We have some other amazing projects and other presentations at previous conferences we've done. And next slide. Please take a look. If you want to take a picture and go to the forum, play with it, mobile or desktop, it's there for you. I want to thank everybody on both the Grass Riots team and the U Ottawa team for all of their help. Engaging Networks as well. Ted Fix, who is supporting us throughout, as well as Jeff Gignac. So thank you.
Thank you too.
All right. Thank you, Ryan and Kevin. Just making sure. There we go. We got everybody on here now. Perfect. Thanks both for retroactively for presenting back in last year, but also for being here today. Want to encourage everybody to drop your questions in that Q&A section if you have them. But yeah, I want to ask you and Ryan and Kevin both just right off the bat here. What are some of you went over a lot of those learnings, some of those takeaways for that previous Giving Day. Do you have any learnings, optimizations you're planning to implement for this next one? That's whenever that is, when that's coming up for you.
Well, actually, I think quite a few. So as I mentioned before in the presentation, $250,000 is just okay for a university of our size. We want to do much better. So we're actually going to be doubling down on the choice features. So the giving day that you just saw was that we had 12 different giving pages. This year we're going to have 21 different giving pages. So it's a huge increase. I don't know if that's the right number. I don't know if it's smart to do that many, but we're going to try it and see. So we've taken on, besides just our core faculties, research centers and scholarly institutes and things like that. The team of lay people who run our annual giving department, they're finding creating pages to actually go pretty smoothly. So that it's almost dangerous. You give people the power and then they just start making stuff. They're having some issues with trying to get the photographs just right. So those are things I think that can be solved. What else are we doing? In terms of promotion, the promotion is going to be even heavier than before. So before we would send out a hold the date email a couple weeks in advance, and then the day before, heads up, it's coming, and then the day of the actual giving day itself, send an email in the morning, send another one in the afternoon to actually solicit, say, hey, today's the day, don't miss the chance, and so forth. So they're going to be doing that again, but in addition, this year we'll be sending out a postcard a few weeks in advance to people who have kind of fallen off the radar. They haven't given in a really long time, and we want to get them back into giving regularly. And then also to people who rank highly in our affinity scoring, because we run an algorithm every night, looks at all hundreds of thousands of people in the database, and we score them for how much emotional attachment we think they might have to the institution. And so a lot of the people who score higher, who have never given, we're going to be sending them postcards as well, trying to use Giving Day as an exciting opportunity to become a first-time donor or to become a long lapse donor who reactivates. And then maybe a week before, to some of the more loyal donors, we'll actually send out a letter through Canada Post to them. Have not tried that in the past, so we'll see if it works. But we find in general that old-fashioned postal mail works really well, even though the trend is toward online giving, but or the old-fashioned postal mail prompts people to donate online, which is really what we want them to do, as opposed to sending something in paper. So we're doing all of that. Yeah, it's we're going for it, and we want to be as good as well, we don't really compete with other universities since we have different audiences, but we want to be as good as some of our peers who are really great.
Love that. That's great. Yeah, we don't actually compete, but come on, you're going to go up neck and neck against some of those, and you want to look good. I totally get it, and I love that getting mail. Everybody loves getting mail, and I think that's such a funny thing in theory to get mail about something you can donate to online, but I think that makes sense. It works. It would get me, I think. So that's great. So when it comes to messaging, you highlighted speaking to some specific areas rather than the institution itself, along with personalization tactics. So what are some of the most effective ways you achieve both of those strategies?
So around the personalization, there's two approaches. So the email that goes out or the letter that goes out, it's variable, somewhat variable. Not as variable as I would like it to be, but I mean, the dream is someday we'll have AI that will write a different letter for each person. But we can cater certain portions of the message to, if someone is a really loyal donor, they're a really big donor, if they've slacked off for a couple of years, if they haven't come back to us for 4, 5, 6 years, if they've never donated at all. So instead of sending out the same letter to everybody, try to change some of the language toward where that donor is at in their current loyalty. The other one is we do write algorithms. Now, probably not anything as sophisticated as what you hear about in the news here, like Facebook. We don't do anything like that. But for us, algorithms is we do some research and then we establish criteria to
say what people might be interested in. So we haven't. Many people have donated to lots of different causes since we offer different causes. So we run an algorithm to see, well, what causes do they seem to be most interested in and likely to support based on when they supported, how much they gave. And then we can also look at other things like what events did they attend, because we have a lot of events. What emails did they open? And try to hone in what they want. And then on Forgiving Day, as part of the personalization, say, okay, here's a cause you might want to support. And we give them a link directly to that giving form, one of the 21, for that particular cause. And then we also say, here's, we call it a landing page, but I think in the presentation and in the world out there, we call the projects page. Yeah, here's our page of all the things that we're promoting right now. So we give them multiple links, what we think they're going to be really interested in, and as well as the general offering for Giving Day. So those are the two key pieces of personalization that we're attempting this year.
That's great. I want to put you on the spot a little bit, Ryan, with that similar question there, because I know you've worked with other organizations as well. Like, what are some of the biggest, I don't know, wins you feel like on the personalization front, on the, even maybe a specific email that kind of worked better than others for Giving Days, for other campaigns? Have you noticed anything from your side of things?
Yeah, I think, when we think about personalization, a lot of times we stop at the point of like content as being like the point where we should personalize and appeal. But, when I think about the user context, I think about so many other dimensions, which is like time, place, what medium they're using to connect you with, what channel they came in through. And so, as we're thinking about like personalization, like personalizing the presentation, but also the appeal to someone's on a phone versus a desktop, somebody who's coming in through a marketing appeal versus coming in through a website banner. Engaging Networks is so flexible in terms of taking signals and using those signals to change its structure, display, appeal based upon those things, that just looking at information that's in an email segment, it isn't always necessarily where things should stop. And that was something that we wanted to use. That's why shell, when I talk about those shell profiles, they can become so powerful, because then you can translate these kind of generalized signals to different opportunities, so that you have a different shell profile for Google ads versus Meta ads versus cost per click ads. And those shell profiles can really adjust the conditional content on Engaging Networks to those channels and those mediums. So, one thing that's been really useful for us is actually running repeatable analysis on accounts to look at, is there a tangible difference between organic versus paid traffic in terms of average gift, and can we detect what our gift array should be optimally for somebody coming in through a paid ad versus organically, so that we're maximizing fundraising, both conversion and revenue on both sides. Because it looks like higher donation gift arrays are a turnoff for people coming through a Facebook ad. And so finding those insights and adjusting personalization, not just to the user, but to their context, can be really powerful.
That makes a lot of sense. So really just kind of that constant adjustment, right? Just kind of noticing what's happening and having to pivot as you need to. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, one final question I want to ask you both is, you may have touched on some of this, but just to kind of maybe pull it together into this final question is, what, if anything, has changed in your campaigns and processes since you last presented this session? Kind of talked about some of the takeaways, some of the learnings, optimizations you're planning for the next one. But if you could, if maybe even just picking like one thing or two things that just really has changed that you've kind of taken away as a learning going into this next year.
I'd say the amount of work involved. So obviously what we presented here is, it's very complicated compared to what most charities do. And I've had a year to think about this. It is I do think it leads to more donations. At least this is just my opinion. If you give donors choice, but then you have to manage this on the back end. And this is something that all universities throughout the world struggle with, right? How you're supposed to actually target that money to what donors want to support, and there's an accounting involved, and I think for a lot of charities that's just a cost that they cannot bear. So it's not that I want to necessarily walk back what I've said in the presentation and today, but you want to make sure that it works for you. And I'm even wondering, and I'm going a little bit off topic here, but if charities could maybe try to find out why people support their cause. And then, because if like in the example that I gave in the presentation to Donald Rue, the charity that I support every month, I'm like, if they knew what I was really interested in, maybe I'm more interested in, let's say, job training of homeless youth, then they can direct their messaging to me in that way, right? And really get me excited about, oh, this is something that we really do, we really take care of, as an example. Yeah, so there are costs involved in that. And then my team is more the applications development and business intelligence side. So the more complexity our fundraisers create, the more support that we have to do to support them. So, it's worth keeping that in mind. But then on the other hand, we're really surprised at how quickly our lay users who don't have any technical training at all were able to get this up and going. So it goes both ways.
Good points. Yeah. Ryan, do you have anything you want to add at the end as far as that's concerned, like going into the next year?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's incredible to think back because so much has changed in the last year since this project was deployed, and so much has changed since this was in its core development phase. I mean, one thing I will say is that we were really excited about this new agentic world and what that means for the role of a digital strategist or a digital fundraiser in using the tools. One of the biggest barriers that we've seen in my whole career is that the tools become more capable and more complex, and the job of a digital strategist or fundraiser increases as well, and the capacity of our organizations decreases. And so what we really want to see is agentic tools that are supporting the work and the job that we do, and a lot of that is going to be in how agents can work with both platforms to manage some of that workload. And so some of the things that you saw with that Google Sheets integration, we've really been able to amplify the capability of that in the last year in some very new and exciting ways that have really just made people's jobs easier. And also we're excited about the tools that we're developing that give more awareness, observability, and performance to our campaigns with the use of AI agents. And so that's something that we're continuing to work with partners to research on and are open to conversations about it.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's the future, right? So whether you want it to be or not, that's what's coming. So that's great. Ryan, Kevin, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for such an incredible just case study on how to make a giving day work and so many of the other aspects of what you covered. Hoping we can see you guys at ENCC Toronto and everyone else here that's been able to attend today. We hope we can see you at an ENCC in 2026. Please consider coming to one, and we'll also make a plug for speaking as well, because it's a good opportunity to share what these amazing things that your organization's involved in, and the tactics you're employing that might inspire another organization with what they're doing and the amazing work they're doing as well. So all that to be said, thank you both for being here. Thank you, Natalie, Mon, for being here as well. And if you have any questions that you think about after this that you want me to make sure I kind of get in front of any of our speakers today or our support team or anybody else, I'd be happy to put that question into the right hands. So otherwise, I'll hope to see everyone at an ENCC this year. But thanks all for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.